thank you for joining us today on Coastal and Progressive Rainbow Forum on Society Bites Radio. Today we will be speaking with LUIGI FERRER, and he is originally trained as a marine biologist. He is now Sexual Minority Health Coordinator for Florida Department of Health in Miami-Dade County, Florida. He is former Executive Director at Pridelines in Miami-Dade, Florida. He also has consulting background for Body Positive and is one of the long-term survivors for HIV. He has a long list of activism events, and we were going to discuss that today and some of his incredible background. LUIGI, welcome, and it's so good to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. It really is a pleasure being with you and your audience.
And, well, thank you, and we've got a lot to talk about here. You've got quite a history, a marine biologist, and then you helped found Pridelines in Miami-Dade, Florida. I know you can tell us lots of stories about what it was like there before Pridelines was founded. Give us a little bit of your history and how that came about happening, the Pridelines, your background.
Yeah, so I first came to Miami at age 18, and by age 21 I was already HIV positive, and unfortunately this is a story that continues to repeat itself today for queer, Latino, Latinx men in South Florida. I came, like many young people, I went back and forth to Puerto Rico for a while until I established myself here permanently, which was around 1985. I came to the Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science to work on my doctorate degree in oceanography, and then shortly after was diagnosed with HIV. At that point, getting an HIV diagnosis was essentially a death sentence. It, you got your diagnosis, 3 to 6 months you were dead. That was it. There were no medications. We knew very little. Actually, it's very reminiscent of what's happening today with the COVID. It's a new virus. We know very little about it. There was a lot of fear, a lot of misinformation. So I was offered the opportunity to take over the position of Executive Director at the Body Positive Resource Center, and really, thinking that, well, maybe I only have another 2 years to live, I decided that maybe having a degree in oceanography and understanding what was happening on the bottom of the ocean wasn't as relevant as working in HIV education and HIV prevention, and really devoting myself to learning about the disease and learning about how to take care of myself. So there was a lot of self-interest in taking the position of Executive Director at the Body Positive Resource Center, which was Miami's second AIDS service organization, and it really served almost as an LGBT community center at the time because there was none. At the same time that all this was going on, the youth that founded Pridelines, and I don't want to take credit for that, I wasn't one of them, but I did know them, were getting together at MDC Miami-Dade College Wilson campus every Monday night. I went to a couple of their meetings because they were my friends, right? And many years later, after working for Unión Positiva in Little Havana, and then going to the Massachusetts Department of Public Health in Boston, I came back to Miami as the executive director of the body of Pridelines, which at the time was called Pridelines Youth Services, and it was a youth service organization. And we had this problem that our youth were aging out. And we also realized that just because somebody turns 25 doesn't mean that they don't still need help, especially queer youth for whom, when they come out, 26% of them are told to leave home. For others, it's just this uncomfortable distance that sort of takes place. You don't get those job opportunities, those introductions, and for some people, it's just outright, rejection and hostility, right? So it's fraught for all of us queer folk when we come out, when we tell family. And so there's always a need for additional support, a place to come together, to learn from each other, to socialize. Most of us have heterosexual parents, so, they can't teach us about living the gay life or introduce us or tell us about the do's and don'ts. And I think particularly for young gay and bisexual and other men who have sex with men in South Florida, there are not many opportunities to be able to talk about sexual health and to be able to talk about risk behaviors, that or just sexual behaviors that we might be interested in or that we think might feel appealing or we saw in a porno and we're like, oh, do I want to do this? There's no place for young men to have those types of conversations. So it is really important to create a family of choice, to create community and create spaces where these conversations can happen.
Yes, excellent. You're right on target there. Very good, very good. And Luigi, you've got such an incredible background here behind you, and I am just blown away by some of what you've done here and your activism and everything that came together to make this possible. I'm going to jump ahead here, and then we're going to come back and talk more in detail. But I want to, before I forget this and put it in the interview here, there's a benefit coming up, and for you and your organizations there and stuff, and that is by help me with the name. Is that Taylor Mack?
Yeah. So the event already took place, but the fundraiser goes on. What we are trying to do is establish an LGBTQ scholarship at Miami-Dade College for any LGBTQ plus student at Miami-Dade College that can apply to this scholarship fund. Again, this was done through Miami Live Arts Project, Miami, right, which is part of MDC, and the show was called Holiday Sauce by Taylor Mack. And I think if you go to the Live Arts website, MDC Live Arts, you can still watch the show. And for those people that might have never heard of Taylor Mack, I will say that Taylor Mack is an incredible singer, songwriter, playwright, performer. He's a radical fairy. He does these elaborate costumes and highly produced events that are just, I was amazed at the quality of the show and just how much fun we had. Again, one of the things that Taylor is really likes to emphasize and that he believes in is building community, finding family of choice, supporting each other, something that us radical fairies, and I am also a radical fairy, so that's something I share with Taylor Mack, we call social security. And that means coming together as family of choice and helping each other out and providing for each other when there are no other resources. It's one of the ways, it's part of fairy magic, it's part of the way we manifest abundance.
Excellent.
By supporting each other. Yes. And so that's the type of work I've always been doing here in the community. I was part of a failed attempt to put together an LGBT community center on Miami Beach many years ago. And so when I came back to Pridelines and we were having, these problems of youth aging out and there were still needing services and we were already providing services for HIV-positive individuals over 40. So I talked to the board and we essentially said, how can we justify how can we the fact that we are providing services for people over 40, but we're a youth service organization. What's our mission? What do we do? And we looked very at the founding documents that those kids, in the late 80s, early in 90s had put together. And what we found was that the youth were intent on providing safe spaces for youth, because they were kids at the time, where youth could come together to learn from each other and support each other. And so looking at all of the different issues that the organization was facing and the fact that Miami had no LGBT community center, the board reconciled all of that by saying, no, we are a youth service organization. We will always be a youth service organization, but now we're going to provide services to youth throughout their lifespan. And that's when Pridelines, about 5 or 6 years ago, became Miami's LGBT Community Center.
Excellent. An excellent story there. I'm going to give you an honor that you're also the honor you're going to get here. It's not as great as what Taylor Mack's program is, but your Taylor Mack program is going to be one of the first items advertised in our new our renamed publication that's coming out here in the end of the month, and we're going to advertise his performance. And I cannot give you the name yet, but I'm going to copy you. I'll put your email on the list, though. But it's a publication that deals with progressive LGBTQ plus issues and stuff throughout the state of Florida, and we are going to be serving a number of other organizations as well as for housing, and we have the same goals and so forth. And I'm hoping I can work with you more in the future here in helping LGBTQ youth, and also helping with housing. Our focus has been housing, because as you probably know, Florida has a housing crisis, and we are trying to provide housing services and so forth. And we've got a long history of doing this, incidentally, in other parts of the country as well, in other areas. But anyway, Taylor Mack's program is going to be one of the first items we're going to advertise. It'll be the first on the calendar. We've been putting out a monthly calendar for quite some time, and we advertise events and things like this, and we're going to be doing more of these statewide in the state of Florida, so people can connect via Zoom or connect via the internet or however they want to do it and get involved and do things. And so, but anyway, this is such a unique program and everything, and the scholarship fund is right on target. That is an excellent idea. We have another event that we advertise every year. It's been since Pulse happened. One of the celebrity who live on the coast up here in this part of Florida, he throws open his beach home for a benefit every year, and we're now starting a youth scholarship again for LGBTQ youth. And so very same things we're doing and working together. I think we can get more synergy, and that's why I was so excited to see you on the agenda here and being able to do the interview with you. And so, excellent. Tell me a little bit more about your events there, and what you do now that you help. I know that you work in the your current position is the sexual minority coordinator for the Florida Department of Health. Tell us a little bit about what that encompasses and what you do.
So basically, as the sexual minority health coordinator for the Florida Department of Health in Miami-Dade County, I coordinate technical assistance to the service providers with which the health department contracts to help them meet their deliverables and their service goals. I also coordinate events around all the different